Hey, I am Melissa from Vintage Garage in Evanston, and I am here with my vintage therapy partner, Danny of BAM, Broadway Antique Market. Today, we're going to talk about this age old question that dealers are griping about, and that is I don't like the mall owner, the, the mall I'm in, the mall owner isn't doing anything, or I'm doing a market and the owner of that market isn't doing anything. Okay. I'm unhappy with them and they're not giving me what I need. Okay. So, first thing I'm going to say, because this is the first thing I always say, look inward. Okay. If you're doing everything that you can do and you're in there and you're switching up your booth, you're bringing fresh merchandise to the show, and you are doing your part, but something still isn't working, okay, maybe you do have an issue. Well, what are you going to do about it? What do you think they should do about it?
Well, this is a really good topic because I think you and I are sensitive to uh, the issues of the dealers, and but also I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that we probably don't put up with a lot of bullshit. Uh,
No.
right. So I think we should look in ourselves in this
Okay,
conversation. Let's try that.
that's
Let's
fair.
try because when the topic came up, I said, "Gee, that's a good topic." I'm not sure. I'm not sure how honest I want to be about this. I'm going to be honest, but if how comfortable, better. How comfortable I'm going to be. And here are my thoughts. I think if when I was a dealer in other malls, so I've absolutely been there. I need to think about what is really the question that I have or the problem that I have. I need to narrow it down and focus on the topic of what I'm griping about. So I don't want some because I remember not so much of the store I'm in now, but the store I used to manage, Chicago Antique Mall, 100 years ago. When I think Mary Todd Lincoln had a booth there. Um,
Yeah.
but dealers would say, you need to get people with money in here. You need to get shoppers who have money, right? Okay, that is such a general and stupid question because it doesn't work that way. If only people with money should come in the door. It doesn't work that way, and you really never know who's going to buy something
You
and
don't.
who has money.
No,
I've
you
had people come in with unbelievable BO and you don't even want to get near them. And then they'll take off their sock and start peeling out, $3,000. So, it's absolutely happened. So
yeah.
don't be judging. We don't know. We just don't know. So I think you need to narrow what is the question. So it also can. I'm going to be a lot of negatives here, and it's not me. But when somebody says, you need to have more customers come in who buy Roseville. You need to have more customers who come in who collect railroad
There aren't that,
memorabilia.
yeah,
They're
there
just
aren't that many customers that are
there
buying
aren't.
Roseville today.
So think about the question that you're asking and going like, is that really a fair question? Um, uh, so, but there's other issues that people bring up that we've seen in these questions that have come up, and I thought they were really good. Um, and the one was about a couple of them were about you're in malls that don't keep regular hours,
Oh yeah.
right? That so they don't open on time and they close early. And I gotta say, wow,
All it takes, and listen,
yeah,
we've had the conversation. I told you before I was a terrible shop owner. I hated it. That's not me. But I also know that if somebody shows up at 4:30 and you're closed and you're not supposed to close till 5, they're not coming back again.
oh
Because what are you going to do?
no,
You're going to look to see if they're open next time?
yeah,
No. You're
yeah.
going to look to see if they change their hours? No.
And
You're
they're
just
gonna
going to
yak,
forget it.
they're gonna yak and tell everybody. That's the other thing,
Yeah.
right? Oh, that place they close early. They always close early. That place they don't open on time. Da, 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 da. So
Right.
and that I totally agree. And for as difficult
Yeah.
as that is to make happen over the decades, you have to keep regular hours. So I think if dealers are complaining about that's a legitimate question.
Yeah, that would be
And I
legitimate.
thought about, I thought about that, going like, what's the best way to approach the dealer around the mall owner on that? And I think part of it now is, let's look at this realistically. It's hard for everybody to have employees. Restaurants can't find
True.
employees.
That's very true.
There's a real lack of employees. Um, Maybe approach the mall owner with, again, some empathy and say, hey, I know these are really tough times. It's got to be, and it must be. I guess it's kind of difficult for you to open on time. I'm sure you've got, your kids, your life, or whatever, whatever. Is there anything I can do? Is there anything this some of the other dealers can do that could help with this? That
That's a great
again,
way to
answering
approach
a question with a question, and not be confrontational about it.
it. Yeah, I
Because
didn't sell anything today.
yeah, right.
Well, I mean, in my case, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I didn't sell anything today.
Hmm.
But I can honestly say to people, okay, you've only been here once. And what did you sell? Did you sell anything? If you sold nothing, then, let's take a look at your prices. Let's take a look at your merchandising. Let's take a look at how your booth was set up. Like I noticed a couple of booths at the show a couple weeks ago were very closed in, like very tight and closed in. And then the dealer's way at the back of the booth. And then to really look at anything, you have to kind of go way back in there. And it's like, you don't know if there's anything in there you really want to see.
And they just walk on by.
And they just walk right by.
Right, right, right.
So there's something to be said for paying attention to a booth. Like, so if
Love
you
that.
got a booth at BAM, go in there
Yeah.
and see who's busy.
Yeah.
Pay attention. And
Yeah.
then try to figure out what are the things that I can use here to make myself better.
And people think you need to think about this too now more than ever. They're less likely to step into a booth where there are other people in it already. Just the whole social distancing,
Nah, that's not what I found.
which wasn't a thing before. Oh no, no,
Well, the
I
last show we didn't have any issues like that, but I can see what you're saying.
well, I mean, and I would say that's to your knowledge. Because you
Right.
really know the people who didn't go into a booth because they didn't feel safe. They didn't come up to you and say, "Hey, Melissa, there was too many people here."
This was also before the
you know,
resurge or whatever.
yeah.
started
And I
happening.
mean, and this is just what's going on now. Oh, and let's be honest, the hardcore people will just, it could be the bubonic plague and they'd be running into a booth they know they have good things.
Well, the way I see it is the more people that are in a booth, the more people go, "What's going on?"
Oh, what's in there? Oh, absolutely. But to your point though, an open air booth or open frontage to a booth,
Yes.
yeah, huge deal.
Yeah. Like I've seen people do it where they have, like, okay, so one full parking space is 9 feet wide.
Mhm.
And I will see someone like blockade the front of their booth with like a 5 foot long table, and then you've got like 2 feet on this side, 2 feet on this side. Well, that's not enough for people to get in. And that makes people, like, I've noticed if no one is in the booth and it's too deep like that and you have to maneuver around things to get in there,
Yeah.
they don't want to do it.
Well, okay, so wrap up just a little bit since we're in the
Sure.
midpoint here. So shows, they open on time and they close on time.
Yes.
If they didn't, it's no show. I don't know what that would be.
Correct.
Stores, that's a problem. That's
Huge.
historically been a problem.
And yeah, I do hear that a lot myself. That they close earlier, or they,
Well, even like you're
I
saying,
stopped by today to refresh my booth and it was closed.
well, so when you had a store, you didn't rent out space, correct? It was just your store.
I did actually at the beginning. And then I realized I hated it because
Okay.
I was
Okay.
going to have to chase them down to make them refresh it. Like, I had one dealer never even came back again ever.
Oh,
She
jeez.
left it all there.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so kind of to the point though is that you weren't really good about keeping regular hours. That was
I
an
hated it.
issue. You hated it. Okay, so wouldn't be the person to be owning a mall.
Nope.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
sure wouldn't. And
Yeah.
that's up to me to figure out. But it's also up to you to figure out, maybe this isn't the person space that I want to be in. Maybe that doesn't work for me. Do your research first. Do your research. Pay attention to where you want to go. If you want to go to Broadway Antique Market and you want a booth there, know what you're doing. Go in there, pay attention to what's going on, and then make it work for you. But just because it looks like there's a nice antique mall down the road from you and you've seen it from the outside doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Right, right. Well,
You know, is this
what other questions have or complaints have you had? Because since we're talking about people complaining about malls,
they don't market enough? We don't advertise enough.
I don't advertise enough. Okay, okay,
Yeah, which I definitely do.
yeah,
Um, you know, again, can I specifically advertise for Roseville Pottery? No, I can't because I have 75 vendors who are all selling different things.
right,
So I have to do a nice variety of things and promote, you know, a variety of things.
yeah,
And I will promote those things hard,
yeah,
whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Facebook, you know, whether it's on Google. Um, you know, these are things I really keep up on and make sure to promote. Um,
and,
I know there are old school show promoters who have that show every month. Everybody that goes or people that go, and they don't spend a lot of time trying to recruit new customers or get the word out there. And I understand that could be frustrating. But there's so many things that could be wrong. I don't want to say wrong. Um, what do you as a dealer, what do you expect? Like, so for the vintage garage, it's $175 for a full size booth, which is like 18 feet wide, 18 feet deep. So it's up to you to bring in what you need to bring in to recoup that cost. But again, $175, I couldn't run an ad in the paper for that. I couldn't run, you know, I couldn't get the impressions online for $175.
right, right. And even if you did, that wouldn't necessarily bring in that Roseville customer.
Correct.
Kind of the
Correct.
point we're making. And
So, but the point is what do you get for that booth? You don't get an unlimited amount of anything. You know, you're getting the space and it's up to you to put what's in that space that's going to sell. Okay. I'm not, if, and you have to do your research. So if you want to do the vintage garage and you want to have a booth, you need to come to the show beforehand. You need to pay attention to what's happening or watch videos online. Look at the pictures from the show. I have thousands of images of pictures from the past, you know, 10 years.
yeah,
And
video,
you
yeah,
can get a good idea of whether or not you're going to fit into this. And then if you are going to fit into it, get ready to commit because you need to be there. You need to be with this group of people every time we do a show because that's what's going to get you sales.
well, okay, I'm trying to look at this objectively.
Okay, fair.
And I think because I don't want to feel that people think that we're dodging the questions either here. So that I think, we're both saying, on one hand, your responsibility ends at getting traffic there, of getting bodies, right? You're, well, of course, securing a safe space, having tables for people, and the whole circus of pulling a show off, right? And the expense of it, which people don't even realize. That's why there are a few. We've done an episode on this.
Right.
Why
We've
there are
talked
fewer
about this.
shows.
People need to know this isn't free.
Oh, right. It's
Nothing about this is free.
So here's the difference: is your obligation pretty much ends at getting bodies in there, getting shoppers in there, right? That is also mine, but then when you're in a mall, we're selling for you. So there's that, right? And I suppose people can be, or dealers can feel that they're not getting enough attention
Yep.
for what it's I always say we have 75 dealers and 100 personalities, anyway, and I say that in a loving way, because there's just, and there are people who are really I'm gonna say if they sell almost anything they're thrilled, and there's people, I've had dealers who killed, absolutely, they made tons of money and would be like, you know what, it's more about the presence, it's more about my name, it's not so much about the money.
Art.
And then, but then when it's not about the money, I don't know why they're there. When I'm going, this is the successful person is saying it's not. So I've heard it on all variations of trying to make people happy. Like, what is it? And it also comes back to, and I think I probably said this before, you'll never do well in all the malls and all the shows simultaneously. Like
No, you won't.
this doesn't happen. You're gonna have a really good month at the mall, and then you have a really good show, and then you have a lousy show, and then you had a lousy month at the mall, and la, la, la. That's just kind of life. And but like a business, and you look at how am I doing quarter to quarter. That's what a business does.
Right.
Because it's a business. It's not a hobby. You're not treating it. You're going to treat it like a business. That's how you look at it. And what is it quarter to quarter, year to year, and even looking at COVID, there's people, dealers have really, it's been a boom. People have been shopping, so been a little, a blip there. But go ahead. I know you want to say something.
Well, one thing I've suggested to vendors in the past was to average it out. You
Mhm.
can't look at it as show for show. You need to look at it, it's 5 shows and I've sold $5,000. That's $1,000 a show. I mean, just to be simplified.
Yeah.
And so if you made 3,000 at one show, 1,000 at another, 0 at another, but you still need to even that out, spread it across this time period and then divide it by the amount of, so if you're looking at your sales for BAM, you're looking at dividing it amongst the months you've been there. Because like you just said, not every month is going to be fantastic. But in the year, if you can look at 6 months were fantastic and 6 months were average, but still average it out, then you're looking at it in a more logical way.
And I've been doing this long enough, and it'll be, and I'm just going to use names. It'll be, oh my gosh, this was Betty's day. Like Betty hadn't sold in a week, and then Friday, I don't know what, it seems like every 4th or 5th sale was Betty's.
Yeah.
Just, karma here. Her prayer card came through. I don't know. I can't figure that out. So there's just the kind of, again, that just the randomness of it. And that's, it's what's good and it's also what's bad about it. I've got dealers of incredible things and they have a period, maybe they didn't sell anything, but let's just say they're furniture dealers and I have all these tourists coming through. Okay. Tourists don't buy furniture.
Right.
They buy jewelry and vintage clothes and smalls and things they can put in their luggage, or they're buying luggage. There's a lot of that. They're not going to buy furniture.
Right.
So, and it's funny too, because there isn't the seasonality that there used to be as much as there was in the past. But I want to go off on that. But I'm trying to look at,
back up a little bit more on like I said, do your research. Make sure that if you're trying to join a market or join a shop or a group of dealers, that you fit. Do you fit? Look at the merchandise that's out there. Look at the pricing. I mean, look at all of these things. Can you fit into this scheme? And, what are you going to contribute?
We have an application process. We always have. We've always had a waiting list. And invariably, I'll say, have you been here? No.
Yeah. Well, and see, like for me,
I don't get that.
I can usually tell, even if they have never done the show or been to the show, if I can usually tell by their stuff whether or not they're going to fit in. Now, I don't always know what their pricing is like unless, I can look at their online store or something. So that would be the only thing that would throw me, is if all of a sudden your stuff was here, but it was just unreasonably priced.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to sell. You got the stuff, but it's just too high.
Yeah.
And that's huge. Get in there and make sure before, don't just stop by a mall because it's there and think that you're going to just kill it. You're not, unless you work it.
Right.
That's a big thing too. I mean, I've had a booth space, I had booth space here in town at a place that's frequented by decorators and such. And again, bottom line is we don't have the time to continuously keep it as fresh as it needs to be. And so, I know for a fact, I would not be doing a mall owner like you a service by applying for a booth there, because I don't freshen it up enough. Yeah. I don't have the time. It's a full-time job in itself. Being a dealer is a full-time job. So I'm a dealer, I'm a part-time dealer and a full-time show promoter. That doesn't work for me. What if you have 3 little kids at home and you can't get to that booth as much as you want to. These are things that you need to ask yourself before you go and take space. Is it right for me, and why? Why is it right for me? Do I have the time to put into this? If you don't put the time in, it's not going to work. Is my booth, does it look good enough? Will people be able to walk into my booth and see what I have? These are all just things you need to look inward first. And like I said, don't jump to set up in a mall just because it's there and you assume, well, they're in business, they've been in business a long time, they must be doing well. That's not necessarily the case.
Right.
So just make sure you do your homework. Do they have an online presence? Do they have a social media following? If they don't today, that's bad. And I mean, I know, like I said, this is an old school business. I get that. But even the most old school people should have Facebook pages at this point.
Absolutely.
Because that's where everybody
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah.
And like, if I want to find out what's going on, I mean, I'm going on Facebook. I'm looking to see what people are posting or what's happening. So, again, doing your research, making sure that whatever's happening at this mall, it could be, let's see, these owners could have owned this building forever. They could have already, they just don't want to do it anymore. You don't know. Everyone has different motivations and different. So the big question is, do you fit in? Will you be able to work this out this way? Is it worth your time? Is it worth your while? Talk to the show owner. Talk to the mall owner. Listen, if somebody wants to know how to sell at my show and they want to know how it's done, I will help them do it. I will tell them what needs to be done. I will tell them who are the dealers they need to keep an eye on. Here's the dealers that do the best. Keep an eye on what they're doing. But this is self-employment land.
Yeah.
And so looking inward has to be done. If you're set up in a mall and it's not working for you, yeah, they might be annoying you a little bit, but it doesn't work. It's just that simple. It's not working for you.
Well, and I'd also say that if you've got complaints with a show producer or a mall owner, be cognizant of their time.
Sure.
In that, I mean, I always say I'll gladly answer 3 questions and then I turn into a pumpkin, because I'm busy, and it depends how complicated the questions are. I'd often really rather prefer like a quick text or a brief email, and I mean brief, with what is just going like, hey, and then I will respond to that.
Yeah.
Tonight,
Don't be afraid
tomorrow.
to ask, is my point. Don't be afraid to ask. And don't be rude.
Right.
Don't come
Right.
at me and say, I didn't sell anything. I'm not coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
You made your mind up already. What do you want me to say to you?
And I don't want to be on, it's a Sunday afternoon. I am in 3 showcases simultaneously trying to sell something. And I got a dealer yammering at me with a complaint about something that is silly.
Yeah.
And I go, unless something's broken in your booth, there's glass on the ground, or it's on fire, don't talk to me. Because I'm selling things. I'm trying to sell your things, right? That's
Well, listen, I mean, to me, that's a great reason not to bother.
well, but people, they don't think, or they're just comfortable enough to go, well, I'll just ask Danny 16 questions for Sunday. But I think being cognizant of people's time is really important. It's just being respectful. And to my first point, being specific in your question and not something, just say it out loud and says, well, does that sound ridiculous? Well, then don't ask that question.
Yeah, well,
I'm not dodging it either.
I'm really happy to help anybody that wants to set up at a market or set up. I'm happy to help give you as much advice as I can.
Absolutely.
You better be ready to follow it too.
That's just it. Yeah, right. If you ask the question, you're going to get an answer. You're going to get a couple of answers.
And if you're not, if you're unhappy with the booth you're in or the market that you're doing, do some research. It's time to step out then and get out of your own head, maybe, because I think a lot of people definitely blame other people for their success or their failures.
Just easier.
And that is it's a big one. And if you can't work with that person, whoever is in charge of that mall, move on, move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are also a lot of people who you're never going to get anything from.
Yeah.
You never, nothing's changed. So understand that as well. That everyone has their own reasons or their own ways of doing things. And if this isn't working for you, you got to find something that is. And don't just jump and set up without doing some
Well,
research.
and I will say too, and it's kind of the difference between shows and malls, which is why we're doing this,
Yeah.
is that I recognize that any number of malls there can be the perception. Well, there's a lot of different things. There are people who own malls, and it's just a real estate play.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all. They're just subletting space. They're not antique dealers, and to me, that's a
Right.
big red flag. I wouldn't move into any mall that isn't owned by an antique dealer who knows what they're doing. It's just they're just doing this for like an investment. He's a dentist. She's a vet.
I also
Oh,
would never move into, this is just me, but you tell me if I'm wrong, but I would never move into a place that has cases full of fake
oh, fake anything.
purses or garbage that's like brand new that they're just because they have to rent the space out. Like
Right,
if I see that, that's a huge red flag for me.
right, right, right. Totally agree. The other thing I was going to say is that, and this is maybe a little more controversial, but there is the perception, I think rightfully so, that the malls can feel rather cliquish.
Oh, really?
And well, but it's kind of understandable, is that these people have been together for years. And when you're the new kid on the block, right? I mean, when I moved into a mall, that was kind of what it was. I was really the new kid on the block, and I didn't know shit. Um, uh, though I think I was willing to listen and learn, which was probably more than what most people were going to be. And I was the youngest person there too, so that was kind of scary. And I was like 30, which is not young.
That's
Um,
when I got started in this
yeah.
business too.
So,
I was
but
30.
malls can be kind of cliquish, and I definitely have heard dealers say, what, I have a booth there, but I'm not comfortable. It's all the ladies gossip,
It's not really a
all the
social
boys gossip.
club,
Hard.
but it's not really a social club, but I mean, you can join the clique. If there's a clique,
Yeah,
get in there.
yeah, yeah. It's
I don't
I mean, and I'm just reflecting what's out there. It's like,
yeah,
is it high school? I think some of them are. I
sometimes
hated
yeah.
high school. But I still got through it, and actually I did pretty pretty well. So, you got to kind of step up. You're being thrown. You jumped into the deep end of the pool. You
Right.
can't bitch when you get wet. You know. So, um, I'm trying to look at this objectively of what people have said, not necessarily about us, but just malls in general.
Yeah.
And I think it's true. I think that can be true. I'm sure some shows can be clickers. The same group of dealers doing the show, and the new guy comes in, and who's he? What is he? Who
Oh
does
my
he
gosh,
is?
I will never forget that. Like the second show I ever did in my life, I mean, the front of my booth was like had boxes and stuff in it. I swear a dealer walked over those boxes like with 8 feet long legs and somehow was in my booth. This isn't vintage. I said, yes, it is. Get out of here. Like, what are you doing? I'm not open yet. Goodbye.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I just realized, oh my God, is this part of it? Like, was that part of the old school show thing? Like being intimidating or I don't know, but it's pointless. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If somebody's going to act like that towards you, bye.
Yeah.
Who
And
cares?
what's funny is that works at that level, absolutely, in malls at that level, and the best shows. You can do the Pier shows or San Francisco
Right.
Models or whatever. I've heard stories going like it's a click, and then there's all this attitude, and who are you? It's not high school, it's
Time for
college.
any of that. Who has time for any of that?
Right? But it's a thing, and it's better just to acknowledge it and say, when it happens to you, going, oh, like they're picking on me and nobody likes me. This is just life. This is just people,
And I'll
right?
tell you right now, if I have that kind of click, I eliminate it.
Yeah.
I eliminate it because it's toxic normally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
normally it turns into a group that will be bitching, just bitching.
Yeah.
It's not good for their sales. It's
Yeah.
not good for the show. It's not good for the dealers around them. And so when I find out it's going on, I will give it a good chance. But if it continues, I will kill it.
And the opposite of this, and I think BAM generally is, because I can't control much, but the opposite is when you have dealers supporting one another,
And that is what we've got.
right?
That's
And
what I want.
hey, I found this.
That
If you had this before, what have you gotten for it? The helping one another out.
yes.
That social nature of it, we all help one another.
Well,
And
and
I really do, it's
I have a dealer group. I
yeah,
have a vendor group.
yeah,
Anyone who's done my show in the past year is in that group.
yeah,
And that's where I go first. And I tell them, this is where I usually make an announcement first. You'll find out about it eventually, but if I'm going to make an announcement, this is where I'm at. Number one, it
yeah.
gives people a place to go. It gives people a place to commune, I guess,
Well,
together
it
when
puts
the
the
show's not
social,
happening.
it puts the social in media.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it's about. So I think what we're saying here is, it's understandable if
Make sure you fit.
you've got
Make sure that you are walking into a situation where you're going to fit.
yeah,
Don't figure out the situation as you go. Try to figure out the situation beforehand. And I realize that may not always work, but that's your best line of defense to not having any complaints about your mall owner or your show promoter, is to make sure that you fit and make sure that it is a cohesive, show. If you're doing a show for somebody who's going to retire soon and you can tell they don't want to spend the money anymore, or who knows what the situation is, situations change. And like I said, if that's not a good fit for you, don't go there.
yeah. So make your questions relevant
Yep.
and specific, and you know,
And be ready. It's a commitment. It's a commitment to having a booth somewhere, whether it's a live show or a shop situation. You have to be committed to that. And that not only does that mean putting the time in, but also making sure that your booth is everything it needs to be good, and make sure you have the time to do it.
right. Yeah,
It's a commitment. I mean, you know it. If
yeah,
people are, what it takes for the dealers who are doing really well. I mean, aren't they coming in at least once a week, if
yeah,
not more?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for that matter, if I have dealers that are going to be gone for a couple months, they'll leave me a box of merchandise to put out.
Oh, that's interesting. That's great.
And we have done that. And they'll do really well because it keeps being refreshed, you know.
Right.
And the ones I can think of too, those are the ones that have followings.
But that's pretty
So,
cool that you'll do that for them.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
otherwise it's stale and that's not good for me either. You know,
No,
um,
absolutely not.
and
It's
we have
smart on your
customers,
part.
and I love this, but we have customers who, I'm not exaggerating, really, they'll come in like once a week, three
Yeah.
times a month. They're there a lot. And I mean, a lot of them, they'll know where things are more than I will. Going, oh yeah, you're looking for that painting? It's in the back.
Right.
So they're very savvy. The buying public is very, very savvy. I never underestimate them, at all.
Yeah.
Um,
So true.
so um,
All
I
right.
hope,
So let's
yeah,
recap a little bit. What are the things that, um, three things? Are you being realistic about what you're doing? Do you have the time? Is it the right place for you? Did you do any prior research? And look inward. Okay. If you've done all those things and it's not working for you, get out, because you're not going to make it better. You're not going to be able to fix it. I mean, unless this person is brand new and they really want things to work and they're working together with you as a team, then I would say that is not a situation to run from. That could be a situation to get involved in. But just use your head. Don't waste too much time. Make sure the people that you're with are professionals and that you all have the same common goal. That mall owner may not have the same goal as you anymore. That person's goal may be retirement.
right.
And so that means spending less money on advertising. Who knows what their deal is. So when you kind of have that sense, it's going to make your decision making process better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything else you'd like to add, sir?
Um,
I think
yeah,
we hit that pretty good.
I would say, we'll just end with, you got comments or questions, criticisms? Contact us. Let
Yeah.
us know. we're doing our best to answer these questions. Again, I think this was kind of a tough one because it puts us like, and the spotlight is on us and how we're running our businesses. But totally fair, totally fair.
I
That's
mean,
what this is about.
same thing. If somebody came to me with a shabby chic type booth, that's not something we have a lot of. But in my mind, I'd have to stop and go, maybe because we don't have anything like that, maybe one booth like that would be interesting to people.
Yes, yes. And
So
I've
be flexible.
had dealers that I've said, you know what, I like them. I like most of their merchandise. I'm not a fan of whatever. And then they'll bring in whatever, and it sells really well. And I go, well, shows you what I know, right?
Exactly.
So, so I'm open-minded enough on that, as long as it's old,
Sure.
and in
Sure.
good condition and it's priced right, bring it on,
I'm in.
So
You know,
yeah,
you just said a series of words that were all really for if you're trying to set up in a mall and you don't hear the mall owner talking like you are, that's another red flag to me.
yeah,
You want to work with somebody who also wants to sell.
yeah,
And if you want to sell, I mean, I have been to antique malls where the owner's in the back smoking cigarettes and you never see them.
yeah,
And you can't get to a case or something. It's just crazy. And when you're selling other people's stuff, that is a problem. So, like I said, make sure that you know what you're getting into. And if that takes some monitoring, hanging out there a little bit, maybe stopping in,
do your
um,
research, do your
yeah,
research, do
do
your homework.
research.
Yeah, it's like anything else. Because at the
Yep.
end of the day, you're going to have a business partnership with
Yes.
this mall and that mall owner or that show promoter. What they're, if you're just, signing a contract to do 5 shows because that's a better value, whatever, you're in business with this person for 5 shows.
Right.
So, it goes, it just goes both ways. So, and that's how we do it as well. And again, that might sound pompous, but I don't want anybody there in my store who doesn't want to be there. What is the point of that? Life is just
There is no point in that.
there's
People
no,
do it all the time, and
I
they're
mean,
not
back in the day, there would be like people who had to have a booth in like every mall, or I'm in 12 malls. You're not going to do well. You're just not, So,
because that's a lot. It's the same
it's
thing
like,
if you're doing shows all over the country and you're
no,
not refreshing your merchandise in
no,
between.
you're all played
Eventually,
out.
by the time you get to the last show of that segment, you don't have any good goods anymore.
No, it's dust bunnies.
Yeah.
You got
So
dust.
these are all things to look inward, but again, do your research, ask the right questions, make sure you're in business with the right person.
Exactly.
And that will wrap up Vintage Therapy.
Yay! Hit that like button.
Yes, please like and subscribe. We would appreciate it. And check the description. Links to other videos in the description and to Broadway Antique Market and Vintage Garage.
New shows every week.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.